With car prices and truck prices so high, people are just looking for reliable used vehicles. That's what we're going to discuss here in this video. Reliable, mid-sized, used trucks. And I'm going to go through all the way up to maybe even the latest trucks, 2024 range, and just tell you what I think of their reliability. We'll go through common issues, which models and years to avoid, and also maybe some pricing towards the end. Let's jump in. First up is an oldie but a goodie. Do you remember this commercial from the Nissan Frontier back in 2005? This is a model I would actually recommend. Let's dive into which ones to avoid. And they're really all pretty good with the 4-liter engine. This was an incredibly reliable truck. Now, the old Frontier was actually a very good platform. The 4-liter, the 5-speed automatic from about 2005 all the way up until the new generation. Now, one quick note, you want to avoid probably 2005 to 2010 if you can. However, the majority of problems you see here with the 2005 are related to transmission, but it's not the actual transmission. It's a very simple bypass fix. So if you do find an older Frontier with some higher mileage and you're concerned, you can actually do the bypass. 20 minutes, you're good to go, and it's going to have relatively the same reliability as the rest of them. In addition to that, in 2010 and newer, they had fewer timing chain and tensioner issues. So if you're just kind of looking to spend a little bit more and not hassle with some of the problems they had early on, 2010 and newer should be good to go. Next up is the 2022 and newer Nissan Frontier. Like the old Nissan Frontier, this has a 3.8 liter, so slightly different engine, direct injection, but it's still been very reliable. As you can see here, since 2022, they really haven't had a lot of issues. There were some transmission problems in this 2022, but they were more reprogramming. It wasn't like they were having failures like some other brands. And when you dig in and look at the engine-related problems associated with the newer Frontier, most of them aren't really engine-related problems. They were transmission programming issues, and those have been resolved. Now, the reason I put the Frontier above something like the Tacoma is mostly due to the value you can find on the used market. You can actually find very good deals on Frontiers. I'll show you a couple here. So here's a perfect example, a 2015 Nissan Frontier, 127,000 miles, 11.9. Now, it's just the SV, so it's not going to be loaded up with options, and this one is rear-wheel drive. And I know a lot of people would shy away from something like this with 149,000 miles. This is a 4-wheel drive for $12,000. Hey, in the market we're in, 149,000 miles on a very, very proven 4-liter V6. If it has been taken care of correctly, that's going to be a very reliable vehicle. I routinely see these with 200, 300,000 miles on them, with no issues. And here's another example, a 2012 Nissan Frontier SV, 118,000 miles, 13.7. It's really not a bad price for how reliable these vehicles are. And if you want something a little bit newer and you have a little bit higher budget, there are some very low mileage. Look at this 2023 Nissan Frontier SV, 38,000 miles for $26,000. I see these listed all the time. So there are some very good value trucks out there that are super reliable. You don't need new. You don't need to spend 40 grand on a new truck. Next up is the more obvious choice, the Toyota Tacoma. However, we're not going to be talking about the one you see in the image here. I'm not really ready to put my stamp of approval on this one just yet. But the new one actually has been more reliable, at least engine-wise, than the Toyota Tundra. Now, if it's me, I would personally avoid the 2005 to 2010 due to frame rust issues. If you live in kind of the salt rust belt areas, you might want to just double check that if you're looking at something that old. Sometimes in Colorado, dry weather climates, California, you might be able to find a good 2005 to 2010, but I wouldn't recommend it personally. I would stick with 2011 to 2015 for the Tacomas. You'll get a better deal, and they started having some issues in 2016 through about 2017. So I would definitely avoid those years. Now, Tacoma's sold a lot of trucks, so you'll see a few more issues in here than you might with the Nissan Frontier. However, a lot of that has to do with just sales volume. So they sold more vehicles. You're going to see more reports of issues in here. It's not that they're all much, much worse than the Frontier. It's just that they sold more. And when you look at engine issues with the 2011 Tacoma, you just don't see a lot of problems with this truck. I mean, for how many they sold, It's a really reliable platform. Now, the issues in 2016 to 2017, there were complaints of bad shift logic, the transmission hunting for gears more, some vibration issues, engine vibration issues, and then also a higher oil consumption reported by some owners anyway. So I would just personally avoid the 16 and 17. 18 through, basically current or through 2020 range, they're pretty good. They did move manufacturing to Mexico, so it got a little bit more spotty, but I've got family members with, I believe, a 2020, and they really haven't had any mechanical issues with that truck. They've been in accidents a few times and haven't had any mechanical issues, but overall, the truck's been pretty reliable. So if you're looking for like bulletproof reliability, I would be, 2011 to 2015 or 2018 and 19. That's what I would shoot for. Kind of depends on your budget. Now, when it comes to price, that's actually why I put the Frontier over the Tacoma. The 4-liter in the Frontier has more power than the Tacoma. It just runs better. It has more low-end torque. I've driven them both, owned various vehicles with the same engines, and I'm sorry, the Nissan just runs better. Maybe it's not going to be as reliable in certain years, but it's really close. And the worst part about the Tacoma and all used Toyotas is really the price. When you look at this 2013 Tacoma base, 238,000 miles, they want $13,900. When you compare this is all sorted by the cheapest price on here. When you compare what you get compared to, say, a Frontier, yeah, the Tacomas might look a little bit better. It's all kind of subjective. But yeah, you're going to pay more for the Toyota. Some people will pay the Toyota tax and they love it, but you're probably going to be sitting at quite a bit higher mileage at the same price. Now, the 2020 through 2023, they're still good trucks, as you can see here. There's just not a lot of complaints. Partly that's due to the fact that there aren't a lot of miles on these vehicles, but they're very good trucks. They did move manufacturing to Mexico. It's not that big a deal. But in 2024, that's really when they went with this full new ground up redesign. And the biggest problem they had in 2024 were transmission issues. And most people know about this. If you are looking at a used 2024, they do have some of that. So it's the new body style used. I'll put a link in the description. There is a transmission TSB, and you can actually find the VIN range. So some of these dealers are still trying to sell these transmissions that ended up in the VIN range of potentially bad transmissions. So they actually had debris in the transmissions. So you just have to be really careful with the 2024s. That was the first model year. They haven't had a lot of issues since the first maybe 1,000 or 1,500. They've been fairly reliable. The engines have been very solid on these. I actually don't think I've seen an engine failure on the new turbocharged engine yet, which is better than the Tundra. Now, next up is the Honda Ridgeline, kind of an honorable mention here. I think the 2012 through 2014 Ridgeline, the first gen, are probably the best. Let's take a look at reliability on these. And really, with the first gen Ridgeline, you could probably hit 2010 to 2014 pretty safe. 5-speed, reliable transmission, great engine. They do have a timing belt. And one other difference with the Ridgeline is it's a unibody. It's not like traditional body on frame, so you're going to have a little less payload. It's not considered a real truck like the Frontier or the Tacoma, but it is a really nice riding truck. People love their Ridgelines, and they've been super reliable. So if you're looking for something even like the newer Ford Mavericks, one of these older ones might be a better value. As you can see, we'll jump into the 2010 here and look at the engine issues. Really no powertrain or engine issues to speak of in these years. There were some unintended acceleration issues, but those aren't really related to the reliability of the engine. So which years would I avoid? I'm going to avoid the 2006 through 2008 and also the 2017 and 2018. Those are probably the years to stay away from. The rest of them are pretty good. And here are some examples of the good model years or years that I would consider. 135,000 miles, roughly 138,000 miles, right around 12, 13,000. You can even find them as low as 14,000 with 111,000 miles. Now that's a very good price, I think, for the mileage. And it sort of depends on what you think is a good price in this market. It is 2025. We've had a ton of inflation, so that's just sort of the world we live in. But these are much more affordable than new vehicles. So now I put it back to you. I know I didn't cover the Chevy Colorado or the Ford Ranger, but let me know what years you guys think would be good in other brands. These are the brands I've personally experienced and had really good luck with. I've had either friends with them or I've personally experienced them myself, and I really trust them. And I've done a lot of research on these model years. So let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Did I completely miss the boat on the number one? I know many people would think this Tacoma here is number one, but hey, let me know what you think in the comments. Till next time, thanks for watching.